Hello, everyone. Just gonna chill out for a second until people hop on. But I am here today to talk about rest days and hopefully to convince everyone that they're not bad and that you're not going to lose your gains if you take them. um, for those of you who don't know me, I'll just give you a little brief introduction before we start here. My name's Alexa. I'm one of the WAG coaches here. I've been here for about 2 years, and I'm from Rochester, New York. So if you guys aren't familiar with upstate New York, we're like a little bit east of Buffalo, right on Ontario Lake. I am engaged to be married, and I'm getting married in August. I have 3 fur babies, and if you're my client and you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I really love them extra. They are the best. I have a husky, an Alaskan Malamute, and a mini Aussie. I'm a competitive weightlifter, and that's actually what brought me to WAG. Just like all of you guys, I was a client. I originally signed up to cut weight. If you're unfamiliar with weightlifting, there are weight classes. So I was one of those people that fell in the middle of one, and I found that I would be more competitive in the lower weight class. So I decided to cut down, and WAG helped me achieve that goal, and among many others. And now I don't cut weight anymore. I am more focused on performance and strength in the gym right now. But other than that, that's all you really need to know about me right now. I see that some people are getting on here, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So if you guys saw my post, I'm essentially going to be debunking the myth that rest days steal your gains. And I think a lot of times we live in fear of rest days, and that, like, since we're working so hard towards our goal, whatever it may be, that we have to keep going to the gym to achieve that goal. And while that's true, the other half of achieving that goal is making sure that we're recovering properly. And essentially when we're training, we're just beating down our bodies. I mean, aside from the fact that you want to be fit, we're really beating it down, even though we don't really think about it that way. So like I said, a lot of the times I see that people are often not stressing the importance of rest days and are going weeks and weeks at a time without taking a rest day, which if I personally did that, I would be just like trashed. So bless you all who do that. But so think about rest days as more of a growth day here. So let's say you train 10 hours a day. So that equates to about 2 hours, 5 days a week. You have 158 non-training hours of that entire week to be spending on recovery, on ways to make your body stronger outside of the gym. So something to think about is what are you doing on those 158 non-training day hours? Because if you're not executing the right things outside of training, then you might see your training start to suffer. And if you're feeling things such as extreme fatigue or walking into your workouts just feeling completely trashed and dragging, you might have an issue of overtraining and under-recovering. So I have a bunch of bullet points for you guys, so bear with me. Some of it's going to get a little bit sciencey, just because we kind of have to get into the science. So some of this content might be a little bit new for you guys, but nonetheless, I think it's still really important for people who are avid gym goers to know about, just so that we kind of see the other side of the why. Like, why should we take rest days? It's not just like being lazy because we don't feel like going to the gym. It's so much more than that. So my first point here is that there's a huge diminishing return with taking a rest day. So in short, intense physical exertion and any kind of stimuli like that is going to create a huge stress on your body, and your adrenal glands are going to release cortisol hormone, also known as the stress hormone. And when excessive cortisol is released out of your adrenal glands, we don't want that to be elevated for too long, right? Because we want to have balanced hormones. We want cortisol to be regulated. And when it stays elevated for too long, we risk what we call adrenal fatigue, or HPA axis dysfunction. A lot of you probably don't know it as that term, but we can just call it adrenal fatigue for now. Another thing that we might risk feeling is cravings for carbohydrates. And another term, I guess, that is probably going to be a little bit new for some of you guys is catabolism. So essentially what catabolism is your body going catabolic. Most people will say it like that, which is the opposite of anabolic. So when you're anabolic and you're in an anabolic state, you're recovering, you're strengthening your muscles, you're breaking them down to, recover day after day, and that's how you get stronger. But when you're in a catabolic state, they're literally falling apart. So in other words, it's the complete opposite of gains. And if you're not taking rest days, you risk getting into that high cortisol state all the time, where you could risk being catabolic and essentially feel like crap. But just kind of piggybacking off of that, like I said, I find that a lot of people live in fear of taking rest days or feel that they don't deserve a rest day. I know somebody commented on my post asking how to get out of that mindset. And it's just so much more than deserving. Like we need to get out of the mindset of like, we deserve this or we deserve that, or we don't deserve to take a rest day because we haven't reached our goals yet, because that's not how it works. Essentially, when you're resting, you are getting closer to your goals because your body is recovering from what you're doing to it, breaking it down in the gym. We would say the same thing about eating a certain way. We don't say that we don't deserve to eat all of our calories, right? And just some food for thought here. If you're training 5 or 6 days a week and you take 1 or 2 rest days a week, those 1 or 2 days is not going to negate those 5 to 6 days. It takes, I think it was like 2 full weeks of non-activity before you actually start losing muscle or noticing any decrease in progress. So I definitely don't want for people to think that that 1 or 2 days off during the week is going to completely negate all the hard work that you put in the gym to reach your goals. So just moving on to my next point here. I think I said this before, but training is a stress on your body. And like I said, going into the whole negative impact on the HPA axis and adrenal fatigue. In other words, like in addition to feeling really fatigued, you're just going to feel crummy in so many ways and low energy. And the benefits of rest days go way beyond just a day off. We are building muscle on those days. You're replenishing glycogen stores more easily, and you're giving your body a break, your nervous system most specifically, because we have to get back to that optimal working state. And those rest days are going to help you grow faster, get stronger faster, and improve your performance in the gym in the following days. So that rest day today might help you get set up for a PR next week. Okay, going on to my next point here. This is a great one, and I'm sure a lot of you will relate to this on a number of levels. The road to your goals is not just uphill. So I'm sure all of you have gotten very frustrated with the scale or your progress at some point in time on this program because you see it go like this, right? Goes up and down, maybe a big trend down, a little trend up, and then more trend down. And yeah, it's definitely frustrating to see that. But your training mirrors that completely. You're not always going to be in this like high peak performance all the time, and you're definitely not going to see that linear trend going up, 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 up. Always PRing every day and feeling your best in the gym and hitting 90% of your lifts every single day. And yeah, some people might prove me wrong with that, but for the majority of us, it's just not always realistic to think of it that way. And most programs that people follow, no matter what your sport is going to have a periodical and cyclical nature. Any program I've ever followed usually has some sort of cycle that you follow where you're resting couple days a week, training 5 or 6 days a week, and then every 4 to 6 weeks you'll have a deload week. With weightlifting, that's really what a lot of the programs are like. And I know that a lot of times people if you're a CrossFit athlete, people run into the issue of, well, their box is programming for them every day, so they have to go, right? So that's something that like a lot of people here who are into CrossFit should start being mindful of and regulating, because gyms aren't going to program rest days for you. So it's up to you to plan your rest days and make sure that you're listening to your body and recovering properly, because if you're in the gym every day, you might hit a wall at some point. So that brings me to listening to your body. And it's so important to be in tune with your body and what it's telling you, or it will be very, very clear about when it needs you to hear it. It's really, really important to learn when to take a step back when you need it, because if you're always pushing through pain or discomfort to a certain extent, or are just unwilling to take a break and stop being in go mode, you're eventually going to probably feel a little bit crappy. But some signs that you can look for, or at least just ask yourself when deciphering whether or not you should take a rest day, are asking yourself if you're always tired, if you're fatigued, if you're always dragging into the gym, are your joints hurting all the time? Are you always dealing with nagging injuries? Are you having trouble sleeping? Are you not seeing improvements or strength increasing in the gym? And not all of these things are going to be a result of training too much or needing to take a rest day, but it's just a really good starting point for you guys to build off of, just to kind of just see how your body's feeling and if you need to listen to it, because odds are you probably are going to need to listen to it at some point. Another thing that I want to touch on is muscle soreness, because I think a lot of times we go into the gym, even when we're completely beat up and really sore, just thinking that we need to push through it, and we don't. Like, when you're really sore or really beat up, that might be a sign that you need to take a step back. But also, muscle soreness is not always the only indicator for the need for recovery. There are so many systems in your body working to do what it has to do in the gym to not only get stronger and perform whatever it is you're trying to perform, or and recover, obviously. So your central nervous system specifically is working very, very hard, especially with intense exercise like CrossFit, running, honestly anything. Like, it's huge with weightlifting and powerlifting, because when your CNS is fatigued, you're just shot. Like, I know for me, when my CNS is fatigued, it's usually from really heavy back squats or really heavy clean and jerks. And I'm like a miserable person when I am fatigued like that. Like, I automatically will know when my CNS is fatigued. I'll probably cry at some point too. But those are signs that, like, for me, I know when I'm fatigued, and maybe this will take trial and error for you guys to kind of feel out and know what it feels like. But for me, I know for a fact if I had a heavy clean and jerk day yesterday where I'm just shot, I'm going to need to be willing to like lift under 70, 80% today, or even take a couple extra days off. Because at that point, I know for a fact that my body is just shot. I worked really hard. And in order for me to get back to how I want to feel the next week, I'm going to have to pay for it in my training. And some of you might prove me wrong. Like I said, there might be those people who can just keep lifting heavy for weeks at a time without the amount of rest that most people need. But at the same time, I guarantee it'll probably catch up to you at some point. But like I said before, just keep in mind that like the PR that you're chasing now and that you may hit today or tomorrow or whatever that day is, those attempts must be made with adequate recovery. So really think about it next time you're going for a PR, that maybe you should take the day off the day after or 2 days after, depending on how you're feeling. Another note here, I kind of like to look at my training as a guideline. So I feel like a lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves, myself included at times, to have to perform what is on the training day's regimen on that day to the T. And if they don't complete all of it, then like they're a complete failure. And I've totally been there. So I know how it feels, but I've learned to kind of take training as a guideline and almost like a template. And there's no real way for us to predict that our body is going to perform the way we want it on any given day, right? Because we don't know how it's going to respond, and we don't know how fatigued we're going to get from certain things. And maybe we elevated our cortisol levels too much this week and we're just shot on a specific day, or something hit us harder than we thought. It's just unpredictable. So in those situations, it's important to know when to scale back and be okay with scaling back. I know somebody commented on my post and was saying that they get into this like shame mindset that like if they take a rest day, they feel that they don't deserve it, or like how to get out of the mindset of just wanting to push through things. And there should be no shame or guilt associated with a rest day, because it's literally what your body needs. And if you're feeling cruddy, there's no shame in scaling back or doing what you need to do to feel good, because at the end of the day, it's your body and you don't want to be abusing it, especially when it comes to lifting heavy or pushing past that anaerobic threshold. So I had a few questions going on to my next point. I had a few questions on full rest days and active recovery days. And I know Crosby and I answered a couple people who talked about this on my post, but I'm just going to go into detail a little bit. But this is going to be very individualized. So for me, I like taking 2 full rest days per week, but I'm usually like, I walk my dogs every day. So I usually at least go for a 2-mile walk, or on occasion I'll do yoga. But like, I value my rest days so much because I know for a fact that I'm going to feel great after. For others, I usually will say either 2 or 1 full and 1 active. A full rest day should be something that you do not physically exert yourself at all. So you don't want anything inside the gym. You don't want to be on a bike. You don't want to be on a rower. You don't want to be running. I know some people consider rest days as like a 5-mile run or like a Metcon in CrossFit. Like, I would consider that a training day. Like, you need to just rest on those full rest days. I like to tell people to just do normal human things on rest days, like go socialize, go out to dinner, go shopping, food prep, do something that is not inside the gym, because you're in the gym, 5 or 6 days a week for most people. So really take that opportunity to utilize a rest day to do other things. If active recovery is something that you want to implement, this can be more restorative. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with CJ Martin and Invictus training, but he posts a lot of great things on restorative rest days. But for me, this is going to be like a mental checkout day, like something that I can do in the gym or outside that I do not have to think about, like going for a hike, going for a walk, even meditating, yoga, riding the bike very leisurely for 20 to 30 minutes, something that is outside of your typical stimuli. So for me, it's weightlifting. So I'm not going to go move around a barbell, even if it's just an empty barbell. Like that's not something I'm going to do on an active rest day. It should be something that does not resemble what you typically would do in the gym. And definitely no anaerobic exertion. If anything, it should be moderate or conversational aerobic exertion. So another thing that I forgot to touch on this earlier, but another thing that I think is really, really valuable when it comes to rest days is looking at it from a psychological standpoint of like a mental reset day. So I know for me, taking a rest day can kind of rekindle my hunger to like be in the gym. Almost like when you go on vacation, you're not really in your routine, you're traveling, you're not working out as you normally would. Then when you get back home, you're just like itching to get back to the gym. So taking that rest day can be really valuable in like recharging your motivation and giving you a reason to go back to the gym. So from a psychological standpoint, it can be really great as well, in addition to the physical benefits. Okay, so I have one more point here. Bear with me. I know this is a little bit long. So I think that it's extremely important to schedule your rest days, because if you're always in that mindset of like, gotta make it to the gym, gotta make it to the gym, gotta make it to the gym, you are always gonna make it to the gym if it's a priority, which is awesome. But hopefully after listening to all of this, you realize that it's extremely important to take a rest day. But so again, scheduling your rest days at the beginning of the week is something that you can do. And just so it's in your schedule, I utilize my calendar like every single day, every hour. So just think of it as a means of like setting another goal. So most of you people track your daily step goals, just like you track your macros. Start your week by setting your rest days. For me, it's Thursday and Sunday, and that's like always been a thing for me. But I would recommend probably one throughout the week and one on the weekend, just so that you're not training for 5 or 6 days straight. Usually 4 days is like my max, and I'm like, all right, got to take a little step back. But at least 1 or 2 days is going to be sufficient for most people for taking rest days. I think Jesse actually asked a question on my post about like, is there too many rest days? Like, can you take too many rest days? Or like, what is like the threshold with that? I don't think there should be any rules with regard to that. You can take, if 2 or 3 is like the amount that makes you feel awesome in the gym, then stick with that. Like, that's really great. But I like to say, like, do the amount of work that you do, as much work or as little work as you can that allows you to recover optimally and perform the way you want, or to reach your goals however you want. So there's really no rule with like how many rest days you should be taking, but a general recommendation would be about 1 to 2 full active recovery, or 2 full, I would say stray away from 2 active recoveries and no full rest days, just because we do want to reap those benefits of literally not doing any form of activity and focusing on letting our body rest and recover. But so my point here was basically just that you're not going to lose your muscles, you're not going to lose your progress, you're not going to lose your gains if you take a rest day or 2 per week. Like I said, it takes a lot longer than that for you to actually feel what it feels like to lose progress and see your muscles go away and lose strength and all of that stuff that we are in fear of. But in reality, you're actually doing your body a lot of favors by taking a rest day or two a week. So I hope I was able to convince you guys that it's not scary, or nor it shouldn't be fearful that you're taking a rest day, and it's actually really admirable that you take care of your body like that. So if you have any questions at all, please leave them in the comments below, and I will make sure to get to them ASAP. Just for the sake of time, I won't answer them all here. It doesn't look like we have any right now. So yeah, thank you guys for joining me. I know it's early in most places. I'm on the East Coast, so it's 5:26 here. But this video will be posted below permanently and on our YouTube channel, I believe. So if you are interested in watching it at any point, all you gotta do is type rest days in the search column of Team WAG members, and you should be able to find it. So again, thank you guys so much, and I hope you learned a whole lot. If you have any questions, please leave them for me below.